Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 St. Jude DFS Tactics show. On a Wednesday night, we always cover the same things, and we'll do no different for the start of the playoffs for the FedEx Cup. We're going to take our final look at the forecast for Memphis, Tennessee. We are going to look at the mixed condition model that I have made for the week. We'll build some lineups, and then, as always, we'll finish the show off with the 2025 Picks Challenge between Gabe and I. I have a pretty sound lead, and we're going to try and build that for this week and moving into the BMW next week. We have a lot to cover. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where normally I post research regarding the tournament of the week, some course info, patterns of previous winners, things of that nature. Didn't do anything for the St. Jude this week since in my sample size, I only have 2 years of data to work with, considering the PGA Tour has implemented the 70-man no-cut field. So no research this week, but normally, if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That always comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics shows that I'll be out later this evening. You want to see the players I'm wagering, the guys I'm using most often in my lineups, go give me a follow over at X. Then lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle is in the description. He writes a fantastic article called The Fringe. I cannot recommend it enough. By subscribing to his article, you'll be able to get his deluxe version, which comes out early on Wednesdays, has projected ownerships, his favorite plays and values, any wave advantage that he sees, all of that he covers in the deluxe version. You really are missing out if you aren't subscribed to his article. And make sure you are following him over on social media. That is where we put our detailed write-ups for our 2025 Picks Challenges over on his social media page. So make sure you're following him over there as well. Go show him some support. Lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. I see a couple of you in there. I'll get to you momentarily. But we're live. I do have a poll question typed up, so I would love to hear the viewers' thoughts on that. And put in chat, who's your winner? Who are you targeting? Who are you staying away from? Are you using Scotty? Are you trying to beat him? What do you think the course is going to play like this week with the new greens? All of that. So put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. Make yourself heard. If you're not able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2025 St. Jude. And we are going to start, as we always do, on a Wednesday evening with the super forecast over at Windfinder. Good evening, Pay. Thanks for jumping in the chat. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you have had a good week of preparation. I saw you jump into the show at the very end. I believe it was Monday night. But it's good to see you. Hopefully you had a good Wyndham and are ready for the first event of the playoffs. I'm going to post this poll question real quick. Kind of interesting because we did something around the play, like moving in and out of the playoffs last week. So I didn't want to duplicate the question, but it's, something similar, I suppose. Come Sunday night, what is the storyline from the St. Jude? And understand, I only have 4 options, so I tried to cover as wide of a spectrum of possibilities as possible. But come Sunday night, what do you think is the storyline from the St. Jude? Does Scotty continue his dominance? Is someone playing themselves on or off the Ryder Cup? Is it a first-time winner on the PGA Tour? There's a couple of names that would probably come to mind very quickly in terms of first-time winners on the PGA Tour. Or does a, quote, big name return to prominence? So I would love to hear the audience's views on that. I certainly have my opinion, and I'll share that at the end of the show. Forecast for the St. Jude is rather nondescript. It's very basic, which is great. We're gonna have great weather for golf. It's gonna be hot, highs in the 90s. You see a high reached 90 today. Very little wind, very little wind today, or excuse me, tomorrow and Friday. Remember, this is a no-cut event, so we're not having to worry about any wave advantage or players missing the cut this week. Nothing in terms of Thursday or Friday. If we zoom out, take a look at Saturday, perhaps some gustier winds Saturday morning, maybe a stray shower on Sunday. Overall, looks like a fantastic week to start the FedEx Cup playoffs. Granted, it's going to be hot. It always is in Memphis, but a great start to the week, or to the playoffs, seems to be in store for us. So I'm actually just going to remove or exit the Wind Finder tab, because there's literally nothing here. They haven't had any rain this week. No rain in the forecast until maybe a stray shower Sunday. Just not a lot here. And with no cut, we don't have any wave advantage that we're going to try and manipulate, if you will. Of course, I forgot to unstar all of these players, so I will do that very quickly. No field changes, obviously. No one Monday qualified for the tournament. No sponsors exemptions. It's only the top 70 who make it to Memphis. One player decided not to play. That's Rory. So just because of how calm that forecast is, we can take a look at calm winds. Let's see, does 2025 have enough rounds? It sure does. What if we do all rounds? Kind of the inverse of the moderate and windy filter. I usually don't look at this at all, but in case you are interested, your top performers when rounds have been in calm winds this season: Scotty, Colin Morikawa, Sepp Straka, Shane Lowry, Justin Thomas, Akshay Berger, Jordan Spieth, Tommy, and Kevin Yu. Again, I would put very little stock into that, but the option is there in case you wanted to look at it. Throughout this week, I have been kind of debating with myself whether I thought the course was going to play easy, average. A lot of people think that it might play a little bit difficult with these new greens. And quite honestly, I'm still unsure. I can see the argument for, say, last year's winning score was 17 under, I believe. I could see an argument for maybe 15 or 14, but I don't think we're going to get difficult by any means. The winds are calm. These are the top 70 or 69 players on the PGA Tour. There are going to be birdies that are made. It's going to be a matter of bogey avoidance, which that reminds me, let's go ahead and go to bogey avoidance, because I didn't put any of that in the mixed condition model. So if you wanted to factor that in on top of what I have, your top bogey avoiders, and again, I'm just double checking and making sure there are no, sorry, I got an itch. No other filters selected. Your top bogey avoiders, let's narrow this to say maybe 36 rounds. Top bogey avoiders: Scotty Scheffler, Corey Connors, Sepp Straka, Ben Griffin, Patrick Cantlay, Russell Henley, Siwoo, Xander, Emiliano Grillo, and Shane Lowry. Again, I don't have any bogey avoidance in the mixed condition model. I kind of debated with myself on putting it in there, and I decided to go a different way because I think it's going to be pretty important this week. So let's just go ahead and go to that mixed condition model that I've been alluding to. what I have built for Memphis this week and TBC Southwind. We're going to start with 5% off the tee. Distance absolutely does not matter here, but there are a couple of par fives where players will hit driver, or if somebody is supremely accurate with the driver, I did want to reward them for that. So 5% off the tee, because off the tee generally favors length, not accuracy. And I'm much more focused on accuracy, as you'll see down here. So 5% off the tee, 15% approach. Look, it's TBC Southwind. It's, in my opinion, the most important shot type in golf is your irons and your approach to the green. 15%, it's going to be a big factor, especially with these new greens. New greens are always firm, so you're going to have a lot of distance control this week. 15%, it's just the biggest part of the mixed condition model week in and week out here. And percentages will vary, but 15%. 10% around the green, and this is some of where that bogey avoidance went that I was talking about. With these firm greens, they're going to be hard to hold. They're already small. They're already 4,500 square feet. And the fact that they are brand new, they're firm, they're not going to be held like a regular PGA Tour event's greens will be. That is always the case when you have new greens, that they're always really firm until they get broken in. So 10% around the green. I have 36 rounds here as opposed to 24 for off the tee and approach. The ball striking metrics off the tee and approach tend to normalize, meaning they tend to even out. You'll probably, if you're aware of sports statistics, you'll probably hear, regression to the mean or regression. That's what that means. Off the tee and approach, ball striking, they generally normalize much faster than the short game statistics do. So that's why I have 36 rounds for around the green and 24 here. 10% around the green, I do think it's going to be very, very important. 5% on fast Bermuda greens. These greens have always played fast. I don't see that changing. They could be lightning like they got one round in 2023, but the majority of these rounds have been fast. So we're going to look at fast Bermuda greens, and it's a little bit difficult because Hideki had some decent putting form coming in. Lucas Glover did not have any putting form coming in to their win in the playoffs, in the current iteration of the playoffs, the 70-man no cut. So I didn't want to factor in any current putting, especially because these are new greens, so they are, they're new for everybody. There's no course history, if you will. There's no benefit to having putt on these greens before because they're brand new. So I did want to give a slight edge or give credit to our Bermuda specialists. Think players like Billy Horschel, even though he's not here. Think Sam Burns, these guys that are just miles above. Ben Griffin's another one, miles better on Bermuda than other surfaces. Good evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very, very much appreciated. It's good to see you this evening. Hopefully you're ready for the St. Jude. What's your big stance this week? I know you like to fire off those friendly wagers. If you're wanting to try to get back to even with me, we'll try to figure something out. But it is good to see you in chat. Hopefully you are ready for the St. Jude. And I mentioned Monday, even though I don't like it, I was going to use all four of the strokes gained, or the major strokes gained categories, because TBC Southwind kind of demands it. You can maybe argue off the tee doesn't need to, but I gave my reasoning for it, and then I do think these three play a decent factor. Playing one turning lineup, we can do a friendly look. You set the criteria. You put your player down, and I'll try to find someone that's around his price, give or take a little bit, or if you hear something as we're going through the price board that you don't agree with, and we can go from there. But we'll see as the show develops. 10% in fairways. Again, a lot of premium on accuracy this week. And this actually ties into the new greens. Because these greens are new, they're not going to hold, so it's imperative that you are in the fairway so you can control your spin. I've heard many reports this week of players struggling to hold the green even when they're in the fairway. So it's almost, I don't want to call it impossible, but it is a very, very difficult challenge to hit the green from the rough. So that's why I have 10% in fairways and 15% in good drives. And again, fairways are a part of good drives. So I've got an extreme emphasis on accuracy this week, particularly fairways. So 10% fairways, 15% in good drives, 5% in scrambling. There is water danger. Now, most of that water danger surrounds the greens, but there is water off the tee on a few holes. So if a player is in the water off the tee, they are scrambling by default because they're going to be dropping 2, hitting 3, on a typical par 4. So scrambling will play a factor, and there is a little bit of putting in scrambling as well. So this is a decent little catch-all metric to use in the same way like good drives is. I generally tend to lean good drives because this is a combination of finding fairways and hitting greens. This is a combination of, say, putting, a little bit of accuracy off the tee, some around the green. It kind of encompasses a lot of things. So 5% scrambling, and we'll finalize the mixed condition model out. 10% par 3s. This is a par 70. There's only 2 par 5s. Not a lot of scoring opportunities around. Players who do well at TPC Southwind are going to have to do well on the par 3s. So I want to see who has done the best on par 3s this year. 5% in the shorter par 4s. Even though there's only one par 4 that falls into that range on the scorecard, we have a couple that are close. 401. We have a 406. Even though it's really difficult, and 406, you can see that playing shorter if they move tees and pins around. So 5% there, and then 10% in these 2 lengths of par 4s that are most prevalent and most prominent around TPC Southwind. Again, they have lengthened the course a little bit, so I would venture to say that we'll probably get more of an even distribution of par 4s as opposed to more 450 to 5. But we'll see. I don't know. In fact, I thought this was reversed, so I need to. That we might get only 2 or 3 400 450 and get more 450 to 5 now that they've lengthened the course. For some reason, I thought this was like the inverse. So whatever. So yeah, there's a look at the mixed condition model. Some areas I might be weak. If length does matter, it typically doesn't around TPC Southwind. But if length does matter, of course I'll be weak to that. Let's see, if current putting form matters, I'll be a little bit weak to that because all I've got really is scrambling in that regard. If the par 5s really matter, as in, like a lot of eagles are made on this back 9 par 5, typically there's not. There's a few every once in a while, but, not many, and there's not very many at all on the front 9 par 5. So, if par 5s matter, sure, but other than that, I feel pretty good about the mixed condition model for TPC Southwind. We've seen this course over the years. The format of the tournament might have changed, but the course has stayed relatively the same, minus a few renovations over the years. Again, most recently, the brand new greens this year. So with that, we'll move to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings. And as a reminder for returning viewers, for your information, if you're a new viewer, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. Fantasy Nationals rank, which is a straight numerical ranking based on the mixed condition model we just talked about, metrics and percentages in those part of that. Fantasy National will spit out a ranking, 1 through whatever. You see Scotty technically number 1 by the analytics, no surprise. Course value is an attempt at giving a player a numerical value at how well they've played that course normally the last 5 years. In this sample size, it's only 2 years because the format of the tournament has only had 70 players the past couple of years, and being the playoffs. So no cut, 70 players. So this is only 2 years worth of data here. So be mindful of that. But course value is giving credit to players who have played the course well, like Tommy, like Hideki, who is your defending champion, like Patrick Cantlay. And then it will hurt players who have not played well here, like Shane Lowry, like Matt Fitzpatrick. And then the third piece of the puzzle, if you will, the third part of my rankings, we are playing DFS. We're trying to find unique options off of our fellow contestants. Projected ownerships, and these are from Gabe, who's done very, very well this year. Once he felt confident posting, what his projected ownerships were. Projected ownerships are a factor. We're trying to find unique options. So that's why you see maybe somebody that's a little bit surprising rising, because they are quite unique based on all the other players around them. My rankings for the St. Jude: Tommy Fleetwood, number 1. Third, really by the numbers. He's played very well here, and he's middling owned, I would say. 16% seems like a lot, but you got to remember this is a very small field, 70 players. So 16% is actually kind of middling in terms of ownership. Russell Henley, second. Hideki, third. 6,900, Nick Taylor, fourth. He has played fairly well here, and he's pretty unique. But it's also surprising to see him fifth per Fantasy National, just by the model rankings. So Nick Taylor, somebody we'll take a look at, heavily later on when we go through the price board. But Nick Taylor all the way up to fourth. Ben Griffin rounds out the top 5. Sam Burns, Colin Morikawa, Aaron Rice, Scotty Scheffler, and Corey Connors round out my top 10. No, I do not think Scotty Scheffler is the 9th best player in this field. You can see he's number 1 in terms of by the pure numbers. He is getting just dunked. He is free falling because of this massive amount of ownership, close to 40%. And that's why he is falling as far as he is. No real surprise here, I don't think. Maybe Colin, considering he hasn't been Colin-like lately. But he's been pretty darn good here, and it seems like people are kind of off of him. Other than that, I don't really have too much of a qualm, really, with my rankings in terms of the mathematical formula. Again, Nick Taylor's rising just because he's unique, but Fantasy National also really, really liked him. So, to each their own there. Matty Fitz has played really well lately, but he hasn't been good here in a couple tries. Fairly, fairly high owned, I suppose. So there's a look at my top 10. And again, this is the mathematical formula of all three. If you really wanted to just go by the pure analytics, you would probably want to go with this column here. Anyway, we'll sort on the price board, figure out where our fellow contestants seem to be going at various points on the price board, and how we can maneuver around them. In the 10Ks, I'll say the 10Ks, in the 5 digits, we have 4 players this week. Scotty at 13,000 and with no 5K range. So Scotty is certainly a choice this week, because you won't be able to play him and others at the top end of the price board. Scotty at 13, Xander at 11.1, Justin Thomas at 10.2, Russell Henley at 10,000 even. Good evening, Pete. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you've had a good week. Hopefully you had a good Wyndham. Ready for the playoffs, all of that. So it's good to see you in chat. Good evening, Mike. Thanks for jumping into chat. very much appreciated. Good to see you this evening. As I was just alluding to with P, hopefully you had a good Wyndham. Hopefully you are ready for the St. Jude. Feel free to put any and all questions into chat. I can't guarantee I'll get to them all, but I'll get to as many as possible. And of course, please fill out the poll question. Would love to hear the viewers and the audience's thoughts on what you think the main storyline will be come Sunday night. It's good to see both of you in chat this evening. Very much appreciated. Ready to go to Live Chicago on Friday. Very nice. I know that is fairly local to you, so should be fun. I think, is this the second time you've went to Live Chicago? So hopefully you enjoy your time, have fun. I would say don't act a fool, but it's Live and it's generally a party, so I know how that's going to go. But hopefully you do enjoy your time there, P. Watching some good golf. All right, in the 10Ks, in the 5 digits, you have a choice to make this week because of the way DraftKings did the pricing. $13,000 on Scotty, no 5K range, makes it very, very difficult to play Scotty and to fit in really anybody above kind of 80, mid 8s, really, depending on how low you're willing to go in the 6s or how often you're willing to go into the 6s. So Scotty is certainly a choice this week. Third time public course I've played a few times. Very nice. Darnell's saying playing Scotty in all the 7Ks. I am generally in agreement with you, Darnell. Maybe a slight exception here or there, but now that I've let the cat out of the bag, I'm playing Scotty. I'm not going to try and beat him or anything. This feels like a great fit for Scotty. He's progressively gotten better year over year at TBC Southwind. I'm not going to try and beat Scotty. Even if he gets up to 50% ownership, I'm still going to be overweight on Scotty. I can't say I'm playing 100% Scotty because there are a couple players in the 9Ks that I like, and playing Scotty and a 9K is damn near impossible, at least in my opinion. So I will not be 100% Scotty, but it will be a lot of Scotty. I will be more than 50% Scotty. I will tell you that much. I don't see any reason not to play Scotty with a lot of confidence this week. I've just jinxed it. But considering how popular he's going to be, if Scotty struggles, a lot of people are going to be struggling. I'll just be one of them with them. The one player I'm absolutely completely out on is Justin Thomas, even though him and Xander ranked very, very closely. I don't want any part of JT this week. He's not been good around Southwind in a few tries, going back to like WGCs and regular events and whatnot. He can really get in trouble off the tee here. He is the pivot in the 10Ks, so if you wanted the uniqueness, I can understand that argument, but that's about it. That's all I really see JT having going for him. I just don't like JT. Now, Xander is an interesting dilemma because Xander's statistics are probably better than what are being shown. I say that because he's coming in off of 2 top 10s at tournaments that Fantasy National doesn't get the strokes gained for. And I just use Fantasy National. I understand there might be other places that have this strokes gained data. I just use Fantasy National. That's where I'm a member and all of that. So I'm just clearing the air there. I think Xander is interesting this week, but I think it seems like some people are thinking the same thing too, considering he is the second most popular player in the 10Ks. Some of that is probably the pricing being $2,000 cheaper than Scotty. So you can fit Xander and probably a 9K and feel okay about it. I'm going to play Xander. I'm going to play a little bit of Xander because every time I've backed him, he has faltered. Every time I stay away from him, he has excelled. So I'm going to dip my toe into the Xander pool. I'm going to try not to get over exposed to him, but I want to make sure I have a little bit of Xander. Scotty, Nat, McCarthy, assuming that's Nick Taylor, McNeely, and Bobby Mack is your lineup. I like a lot of those for sure. One of them I am nowhere near on, and we'll get to them, once we go through the pricing. But Scotty, I'm all in on, and I like a couple of those others. So we're not too dissimilar, Darnell, but I want no part of one of those players, and we'll get to him, when we get there. So I'm going to play a little bit of Xander, just a little bit, which leaves Russell Henley, and you see he ranks second for me. He's second per just the new by the numbers. I love Russell Henley this week. He's just getting squeezed for me. I'll play him. And any lineup that doesn't have Scotty will have Russell. Excuse me. He's getting squeezed. His pricing is at a very, very awkward spot, much like Tommy Fleetwood right below him. But I really like Russell Henley this week. Russell Henley is one of the few players that I've bet to win this week, but he's just at an awkward spot in the pricing. So any non-Scotty lineup is using Russell Henley, but I'm just playing a whole lot of Scotty. Berger, Obear, Scotty, Patrick Rogers, Minwoo, and Siwoo is where you lean at the moment. Again, I like 2 of those 6. I like those 2 a lot. But you and I, Mike, are quite a bit different than Darnell and I. I do not like this fit for Minwoo at all, which we'll get into when we go to the 6s. And I've got some concerns with Obear. But that's the way I see the 5 digits, the 10Ks. I'm playing all the Scotty. It's chalk. It's yawn, boring. I wish I had a different, bold take for you. I don't. I'm playing the Scotty. Good evening, Rose. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. It's good to see you this evening. Hopefully you're ready for the St. Jude, especially coming in off of your outright on Cam Young at the Wyndham. So we're going to try and keep the momentum for both of us this week. It's good to see you. Need all the help. So that's what we're here for. I will never ever. I will try not to give the air of arrogance that I know everything, because I've been wrong plenty of times. P and Darnell in particular, long-time viewers of the channel, they can attest to weeks where I just got nothing right. I do happen to be on a decent heater right now. I'm going to try and keep that going for as long as possible. There's a look at the 5 digits. Moving into the 9s, we've got Tommy at 99, Matt Fitzpatrick at 97, Ludwig, Victor, Colin Morikawa, and Patrick Cantley. Let me talk about Ludwig. Ludwig, I am pretty well out on. His irons haven't been great lately. The around the green has been really, really bad. He's not been good with par 3s. The kid is uber talented, but there is something going on with Ludwig at the moment. Particularly, he is still double-digit percentage. It's not like you are getting an ultra-unique Ludwig either. So this was a pretty darn easy fade for me. So for Mike's lineup, at least, that he put in the chat, I don't like Ludwig. And to me, it's really hard for me to justify Scotty and a 9K, because that tells you what I feel or how I think about the 6s. particularly the low sixes. So any Scotty lineup is basically skipping all of the 9s and really a whole lot of the 8s as well. That's just the kind of lineups I'm building, though. So in the 9s, I'm completely out on Ludwig. The rest of these I'll play in some form or fashion. More often than not, it's going to be in that Russell Henley lineup. But I will sneak in a Xander a time or two, so I'll try to sneak in a Xander and a Victor, a Xander and a Fitzpatrick. Maybe I do a variation of Stars and Scrubs, where if I don't go Scotty, I'll do something like Russell Henley, Tommy Fleetwood, and Cantlay. Now, I'm not exactly high on Cantlay. I really only want to play Cantlay because of how well he has played in the 2 years of the playoffs here. But if we go to Cantlay's page just very, very quickly, Cantlay is on the struggle bus. So I only want to use him once. Bermuda is not his best surface. He's much like Keegan, or at least I think of him very similarly to Keegan. Keegan's a bent grass putter. That's where Cantlay has done his best as well. Cantlay's putter has been really bad. Like Darnell, you said last week, Ben Griffin, the putter was shaky, and I had to disagree with you considering the stats that we had seen on Ben Griffin. This I would classify as a shaky putter. This putter has been any and everywhere. He's been as high as 3.5 at the Memorial. He's been as low as 2.5 at the RBC Heritage, a place he generally plays well. He's lost in 3 straight. He might have gained at the Open, but I tend to doubt it considering he missed the cut. So the putter's just not there with Cantlay. I don't know. He just hasn't put it all together in a tournament lately, and not to mention the around the green's been pretty shaky lately as well. So like I said, I want to play Cantlay for one reason, and it's only in one lineup, because he's been very good at TPC Southwind in this current format of 70 players and no cut. That's the only reason I am playing one of Patrick Cantlay. Otherwise, in the 9s, hard to argue against Matt Fitzpatrick. How well he's played. I faded him last week, and he ended up playing pretty darn well. So I kind of learned my lesson. If he's hot right now, you kind of play him. So I'll find a way to put Fitzpatrick in the lineup. I'll find a way to put Victor Hovland in a lineup or two, considering he is just scorching hot with the irons. Yes, the around the green still scares me with Victor. I've talked about this quite a bit this week, particularly with Joanne. But I do like the irons on Victor, so I will find a way to put him in the lineup, or in a lineup or two. Morikawa, again, there's a lot going for him, and then there's some things that are really cringy. Like the irons are, good. They're not elite like Colin Morikawa needs them to be. He's still not great around the green. He is the number 1 par 3 performer this season. So he's got good things going for him. He's got some things that are, kind of avert your eyes. Like the par 4s have been pretty bad. Particularly the 2 important lengths of par 4s at TPC Southwind. So, again, much like Victor, much like Cantlay, like Fitzpatrick, I'll find a way to put Morikawa in a lineup, but it's, I'm using Cantlay once. I'm using Colin like once or twice. I'm more aching to go to Fitz or Hovland and Tommy. A lot of my lineups with Russell Henley have gone Henley Fleetwood, just back to back. Bang, bang. If I'm not playing Scotty, I'm doing the 1-2 combo, if you will, of Russell Henley and Tommy Fleetwood. I do like this fit for Tommy quite a bit. I understand he's going to be popular, much like Russell Henley. These two are just kind of getting squeezed because of their pricing. So I'm not going to be using them as much as I would like to normally. It's just I'm all in on Scotty. And any Scotty lineup that I don't play is generally going with these two. Not all the time. Like, again, I'm trying to find ways to put Fitz in the lineup. So sometimes I'll go Russell and Fitz. Sometimes I'll go Russell and Hovland. But generally speaking, I'm playing Henley and Fleetwood if I'm not playing Scotty. Moving to the 8s, I really like Sam Burns. And another reason why I'm not so high on Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay is that I really like Sam Burns this week. He is fairly unique. He's particularly unique off of Hideki and Sepp. I like Sam Burns a lot. We all know about his putting on Bermuda. It's, the old adage was Bermuda Billy for Billy Horschel. You're going to have to think about Bermuda Burns, too. A lot of Sam Burns' wins have been on Bermuda. He's a southern guy anyway. I'm not worried about all the water trouble because he really sprays it with the driver. And this course really kind of mandates that you club down sometimes. So I think Sam Burns is going to club down more often than not. He's played well here. He finished tied for 5th here last year, so he knows the course. He knows where the trouble is. I just really like Sam Burns this week. I'm really happy with this, fairly low ownership, all things considered, since it is a small field, a short field. Much like Matt Fitzpatrick, I've kind of learned my lesson on Hideki. There's something going on with Hideki. He's been playing really, really well lately. And kudos to Joanne, who doesn't seem to be in chat yet, for pointing him out at the Wyndham. I've been worried about this off the tee. Like his off the tee is still quite worrisome. But, when his irons are right, he is one of the best players in the world. And the knock on Hideki has always been the putter. Look at the putter right now. It's really good. So I'm finding ways to make sure I put Hideki into some lineups as well. So these two I'm pretty high on. I'm more high on Sam Burns, but I will play Hideki. The bold thing in the 8s for me, I suppose, I'm not playing Sepp. Sepp's been horrible here at TBC Southwind, and I mean horrible at TBC Southwind. So I don't want any part of Sepp Straka. And much like I was getting at last week with Keegan, even though I ended up playing him at the Wyndham, I think of Keegan on bent. Bermuda is not his surface. Yes, he is the number 1 around the green player right now, but his irons have actually been kind of shaky lately. So I'm not going to play any Keegan. So I'm fully out on these two players in the 8s. Then moving on down, again, much like Tommy and Russell Henley above them in the 9s, like the 8s are just kind of awkward because I'm playing so much Scotty. And that gives you a little bit of an indication of how I feel about the 6s, particularly the low 6s. But, Connors, I guess he's back. He top 10 the Open Championship. So Connors makes a whole lot of sense here. Harris English makes a lot of sense. He's not been great around the St. Jude, but you want to talk about a guy that just keeps the ball in front of him, doesn't hit it wayward, hits greens, makes a few putts. English makes a lot of sense. Rye played really, really well last week. He's the number 1 fairway guy, number 1 good drives gained guy. Length doesn't matter. Rye's big bugaboo, for whatever reason, he's been horrible on par 3s this season. For whatever reason, because he's generally a good iron player. But he's been horrible on par 3s. Probably a lot to do with the putter, particularly on Bermuda. He is one of the worst Bermuda putters. Not even like talking this field, like he's just one of the worst Bermuda putters. So, he fits the course setup wise until he gets on the green. So take that for what you will. Again, Cameron Young, winner last week. He's never going to rate high for me because the irons generally aren't very good. I talked about this Monday night. I'd be a little bit cautious on Cam Young just because he gained 10 strokes on the greens. Like, that's just unsustainable. He's had big spike weeks before, so it's not completely out of the norm, but it's just completely unsustainable. He's going to have to do what he did tee to green to make me a believer, and he just hasn't. He doesn't do that all the time. I think he gained something like 4 and 3.5 in the 2 ball striking categories. He's plenty capable of doing that because he's uber talented, but he just doesn't do it often. He doesn't put it together often, and until he puts a string together of solid, this multiple times. Like, his off the tee game is generally pretty good, but like his irons are generally not. So, I don't know. If I'm late on Cameron Young again, or if I miss on Cameron Young again, sure, I accept that. I just don't see it being sustainable, gaining 10 on greens. This might be the most surprising take I have tonight, and I apologize. It does seem like my stream is lagging a little bit. I do apologize for that. A little bit out of my control. I'll do what I can, but I've got a lot of things running in the background here. My most surprising take probably for the week is that I am very out on Ben Griffin. So last week I picked him to win. I'm all in on Ben Griffin. And this week I'm out on Ben Griffin. That's kind of the nature of the playoffs. When you go from a weak field event like the Wyndham Championship to now stepping up in competition, the top 70 players on the PGA Tour. Another thing with Ben Griffin as well, when you really kind of dig into it, unlike what you were saying, Darnell, with the putter being shaky, like he was in fuego last week with the putter. He gained 10. Like I was talking about with Cameron Young, it's unsustainable. He's been, even though he has gained in both ball striking categories going back to the PGA Championship, they're not, earth-shattering numbers. John Deere gained 0.5. Last week gained 1.5 with the irons. It's good, but it's not top 10, top 20 at the FedEx St. Jude good. And this is not going to be sustainable. Like he gained 1.5 more than any other tournament he had done in his career. So I don't know. I'm not there with Ben Griffin this week, and seeing his ownership jump to 16%, the most common play, the most popular play in the 8Ks, I can be out on Ben Griffin. I understand he is one of the hottest golfers on the planet right now. It's an ownership fade, and I'm banking on the putter coming back down to earth. Good evening, John. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Good to see you this evening. Didn't he play around without driver on all 18 holes last week? He did. He played, I think he did that a couple of times. He played, I know the first round he played entirely without the driver. Which would set up well for a TBC South win, sure. But I don't expect him to gain 10 strokes on the greens again. And the around the green was really bad last week. It's 1 week. He could have had a bad week around the green, sure. But, being the most popular player in the 8Ks when I'm struggling to fit 8Ks in my lineups already, I can just avoid it. I just can. If he plays well, that's fine. I just think there are more warning signs than what our fellow contestants are seeing, is the way I'll phrase that. And then to finalize the 8s, like Chris Gotterup, I was completely out on Chris Gotterup at the 3M. He continues to play well. I'll play a little bit of Chris Gotterup until he doesn't. He's proven me wrong a couple of times now, so I'll continue to play Chris Gotterup. I'm not in love with it, but until he falls off, sure. But the 8s kind of get squeezed in general for me as well, because of all the Scotty I'm playing. And if I'm not playing Scotty, I'm trying to fit Henley and Tommy and maybe even like Sam Burns into a lineup. And so a lot of the 8s just kind of get squeezed. I know Burns is 8,900. I'm kind of counting him as a 9K because I'm not all that high on Cantley and Morikawa, but that's neither here nor there. The 8s just kind of get squeezed for me. Moving into the 7s, the range that a lot of people seem to have a lot of questions on, or maybe even the 6s. Harry Hall, interesting, I guess. Not particularly accurate with off the tee, so that is a concern, especially here at TPC Southwind. Great par 3s, great scrambler, good putter. I do have some concerns regarding his ability to put the ball in the fairway, which you're going to need to do this week. A lot of people like Daniel Berger. I like Daniel Berger. Just be wary of the around the green. It is really, really bad at the moment. But, 7,800 for a top 10 iron player, top 5 fairway finder or fairway player is fair. I wish the ownership was lower, but it's fair. I kind of like JJ Spawn this week. JJ Spawn has been pretty solid lately. I know he's right at the similar ownership of Berger. Spawn historically has not been a good putter. He's positive on one surface type, Bermuda, is what we're on. The driver, ball striking, he's put together quite a bit of good rounds. Yeah, he missed the cut of the Scottish, but came back in top 25 the Open. I'll play some JJ. I'm starting to believe JJ, my guy. That's my play. I'm with you, Rose. I'm going to play him. Probably not as much as you are, but I'll play him. I like Berger a lot, so I'm using quite a bit of Berger, but I'm going to play some Spawn too. So you have top 5 and top 10 on JJ. I don't hate it by any means. I mean, the guy won the U.S. Open this year. He has proven that he can hang with the most difficult of fields. He's in good form right now. I really don't hate those placement bets, Rose. I really don't. I didn't make them, but I see the logic, absolutely, with that. A lot of people have talked about Wyndham Clark. He sprays it a lot. Sprays it too much for my liking. He's just a streaky player. I don't like that for DFS. If I was going to do that, I would wager Wyndham Clark. But I'm not going to play Wyndham Clark DFS. Bobby Mack's also fine. Here in the upper 7s, other than Harry Hall, looks like the ownership is getting pretty evenly spread. Bobby Mack's fine. I think he's the third of these 3. For me, I would go Berger, Spawn, Bobby Mack in that order. Do I have a top form stat? That's kind of what the mixed condition model is, really. Especially when you consider, I'm only looking at the last 24 rounds for a lot of these metrics. Around the green, I explained at the beginning of the mixed condition model explanation why I use 36 rounds for around the green as opposed to 24. That's essentially what the mixed condition model is, John. It's not exact. Basically, if you just wanted to go a current form, you would do just look at 24 rounds so long as it's been this calendar year and a strokes gained total. Supposedly Akshay's been the number 1 strokes gained total player the last 24 rounds. That's getting thrown way out of proportion because of this withdrawal. So, Scotty, Chris Gotterup, Eric Van Rooyen, I think this is also a withdrawal, yeah. So, we'll mark that and that. So, your top 10, last 24 rounds. We'll just go immediate, recent form. Scotty, Chris Goddard, Fitz, Griffin, Cam Young, Harry Hall, Tommy, Spawn, Keegan, and Kitayama. Makes a lot of sense. That's really what you're asking there. I think John is top form. Now, if you're asking about top form, say at TBC Southwind, that would be this. But then again, I'm only going back 2 years because of the current iteration of the tournament. I want to talk about Matt McNeely for a second. Actually, you know what? Because they're the same price, a couple of people asked about Jake Knapp, particularly you, Darnell, and you are correct in your assumption. I don't think this is a good fit for Jake Knapp. Not good on par threes at all. His irons have been good, but not great. I just don't see this as a good fit for Jake Knapp. Yes, he's really good off the tee, but remember, off the tee favors length. Generally speaking, as a statistic, length is not going to play all that well here at the St. Jude. With how fast and firm this course is, I could see him getting into trouble off the tee. And if he's in the rough, his irons haven't been great lately. His around the green hasn't been great lately. Knapp was my only miscut last week. Yeah, I wasn't on Jake Knapp last week either. Like, it wasn't particularly great. 3M, he was fantastic, but again, look where he plays his best. Generally when it's easy. TBC Southwind, while I don't think it's difficult, I don't think it's going to be easy either. Now, he does play well when it's calm, sure. I don't know. This is, like, look at his top finishes lately. 3M, very, very easy. Rocket Classic, very, very easy. A course that is very similar to TBC Southwind, Charles Schwab, Colonial. Granted, Colonial's a lot shorter, but it's tight, it's narrow, it's difficult. Jake Knapp struggled. He hit his irons well, but he did not do well off the tee. And if you don't do well off the tee here at TBC Southwind, you're going to put big numbers on your scorecard very quickly. I can see that happening with Jake Knapp this week. So if that's the player you're wanting to go with, Darnell, in our little friendly wager, I can accept that because I want no part of Jake Knapp this week. What's your top comp course? Colonial's a good one. Oh, let's see. You're wanting to look at narrow, premium on accuracy. Like, part of me wanted to say Torrey Pines, but Torrey Pines forces the driver, where this place literally does the opposite. This place does not force the driver. It forces club down. So Colonial's a good fit. Let's see. Think position like Sony, maybe? Sony at YLI might be a decent one. Just because of its like positional nature. Those are the two that come to my mind immediately. But the difference between YLI, like the Sony Open, and TBC Southwind, like the Sony can be overpowered. Like if you hit your driver really well around Sony, you can overpower that course. You can't do that around TBC Southwind. With all the water in play, you cannot do that at TBC Southwind. So YLI is not the best comparison course. Knapp and Mack put in Glover and Goddard. I don't hate Goddard. Glover makes a lot of sense, but I still have some reservations about some things with Glover. So I'm out on Knapp. I want to talk about McNeely. Good Lord, it's already 10, and I haven't even begun to build lineup. So I'm going to speed through this again, feel free to put in questions in chat. I just can't promise I get to them all. I didn't realize I was rambling on so much, but I am going to try to get through the entirety of the price board. I want to talk about Mag McNeely. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. I just have a gut feeling this is going to be a decent Mav McNeely week. He played well here last year. It was a T12. The irons haven't been great. He's good around the green. He's a good putter. I don't know. This is just a gut feeling. I want to mention Mav McNeely. Lowry, despite the fact that he rates so highly, I'm not really all that in love with Lowry. The irons are great. Good drives gained is fine. It does really well on these par fours. Of course, it's right off your screen. Does really well on these par fours. He's really bad on Bermuda, so no thanks on Lowry. I'm going to go to McCarthy a lot in the mid sevens. I really like McCarthy. We all know about his putting. The fact that he is one of the worst off the tee, I don't think is going to hurt him that much. Because off the tee, like particularly distance doesn't matter here. He's generally fairly accurate off the tee. So I like McCarthy. Thoughts on Bridgman once you get to him, and who's your top 6K? We'll get there. Because Bridgman, I think, is in the 6Ks. Yeah, we'll get there. So I'm going to play a lot of Denny McCarthy. I'll go back to the well with Chris Kurt. That's fine. I know he's popular down here, but the guy's playing really, really well. I want to like Kitayama, but I don't know. He wasn't good in his one try here. The irons are great, but he doesn't have a whole lot else going for him. Like, remember, the 3M is bent in Poa annua. This is Bermuda. He's not great on Bermuda. Instead, in the low sevens, if Poston does not play well, I will lose. I am going to play a lot of JT Poston. JT Poston is my Nico Echeverria from last week. I'm going to play a whole lot of Poston. Now, I understand Nico fell off on Sunday, but Nico was in the final group going into Sunday. He played really, really well. I'm going to play a lot of JT Poston. I really like JT Poston this week. He is the guy I'm going to a whole lot at the bottom of the sevens. With Lucas Glover, it makes a lot of sense. Fairways, irons. He's been great at par threes. I worry about the putter, and I worry a little bit about his around the green, Darnell. Even though it rated decent, I do worry a little bit about Lucas Glover and around the green. No denying the fact that this is a great course fit for him. This is kind of like the opposite of Matt McNeely. I've got a gut feeling that Matt McNeely will play well. I got a gut feeling that Lucas Glover won't. That's really what I have for you on that. And we saw last week a chalky Lucas Glover generally doesn't pan out very well, and Lucas Glover is chalk for his area of the price board. Maybe not chalk in terms of the entirety of the contest, but in terms of his area of the price board, he is one of the more popular players at the bottom of the seven. That generally doesn't work out well when people do that. Moving to the sixes, I'm going to tell you right now, I am playing nobody under 6,500. This whole area of the price board is completely dead to me, which means Jacob Bridgman, I'm not playing at all. The irons, not good. Around the green's been really bad. He's been good on par threes. Sure, he's the number one putter on Bermuda, particularly fast Bermuda. So if you want to play Bridgman for that, I understand it, but I don't want any part of any player that is 6,400 or less. Did I see you putting stats in order, starting at 1? Yeah, I can do that just very, very quickly because I'm already running out of time here. Let's see, column F, smallest to largest. Oh, damn it. Just very quickly, column F. So Poston. I am all about some JT Poston this week. There's at least by the numbers, the analytics. That's how my top 10 came in. They don't match up because of course history and projected ownership. But Scotty won, no surprise. Henley, Fleet. I was most surprised by Nick Taylor coming in at number 5. So in the 6Ks, column E. Damn it. In the 6Ks, like I said, I'm not going anywhere under 65. At 69, Nick Taylor, I wasn't thrilled with Nick Taylor, but if Fantasy National likes him, if he's been good at the course, I should probably listen to what the math is telling me. So I'm going to play some Nick Taylor. You know, finds fairways, decent with the irons, good putter. Really, the issue with Nick Taylor is these very short par fours and is off the tee. But I mean, he's second in these longer par fours. He's good scrambling. I'm going to play Nick Taylor. I wasn't in love with it when the pricing came out, and then, you know, as I built the mixed condition model, he kept rising. So I'll play Nick Taylor, 6,900. 6,700. I'll go back to the well with Ryan Gerard. I know he missed the cut last week, but this still feels like a good fit other than the putter. The putter is really bad, but he's been really good ball striking wise. Griot's fine, and I'll go back to the well with Nico. I know these might not be the sexiest names, but this is who I'm playing in the 6Ks. I just don't like anything down here. 64 and below. Like, Bud Cauley rated out well, but we all saw how that worked out last week. It didn't. It was one of my best decisions I made, not playing Bud Cauley. So, and literally all of these other players are really, really high in the rankings, meaning they're towards the bottom. So I just don't want any part of the bottom part of this price board here. So that's the way I'm doing the sixes, and that's why Scotty lineups are so difficult for me, because I just not a lot I like here. I wanted to like, to your point, Mike, I wanted to like Sam Stevens, but when you dig into Sam Stevens, there isn't a whole lot. I don't understand why Fantasy National really liked him. Like, the irons were bad at the Wyndham, and you go back to before the John Deere, the irons were really, really bad. Like, the 3M was great, but like I've talked about with these other players, gaining 8 is unsustainable on greens. If you're going to tell me that I'd get the John Deere ball striking Sam Stevens, then I'd be all for it. But he's been so erratic lately. I can't trust it. I just can't. And he generally does his best work on long courses too, because you see this off the tee. Like, his driver is a pretty good weapon. And that's mitigated here. I'll have him, Mike. I'll have Sam Stevens, but I am not in agreement with, like, I'd much rather play Gerard at the same price, despite the fact that Gerard came in a few places under him in my rankings. A lot of it has to do with the irons. Nick Taylor or Justin Rose? Me, I would go Nick Taylor, just, you know, based on the analytics here, but Justin Rose is pretty solid. I know he doesn't rate out well for me, but he's just solid. So I don't hate Justin Rose either. Okay, we're quite a bit over on time. I do want to make sure I get to lineups or lineup building. So let's try and build a couple of let's try to build a couple of chalky lineups real quick and see how we need to maneuver around our fellow contestants. In the 6Ks, there isn't a whole lot here. Like, Nick Taylor's at 9% and Emiliano Grillo's at 9%. I would have to figure Justin Rose is also going to get some more attention than 6%. But based on Gabe's ownerships, it looks like it's Emiliano Grillo at 9% or Nick Taylor. They're both hovering right around 9%. And I would think that our fellow contestants are probably going something like Ben Griffin here, and then filling out the rest of the lineup in the 7s, like Bobby Mack, McIntyre, 75, like McNeely's at 11%. I don't know about that. I would think more so like Kitayama. And 74 is Shane Lowry's at a little bit above 10%. Like, this is probably going to be a popular Scotty lineup construction. You might move some names around, but I would think this is probably going to be a fairly popular construction. Maybe one 6K, because I'm a little hesitant to give our fellow contestants 2 6Ks. That doesn't happen very often. And then they're filling out the 7s like you mentioned, Darnell, which is what I'm doing as well. I'm just using different names. This is probably going to be a fairly popular lineup style if our fellow contestants aren't going to Scotty. They actually seem like they're going to Xander, which is a little surprising to me, but they're bottoming out at Lucas Glover. Maybe another lower 9. We use Kitayama. Let's use Chris Kirk this time. And they're going, much more balanced up here. They actually might fit in a 9K like a Victor in this regard. Yeah, they can easily do that. Another Ben Griffin here. 73 is Kitayama. This will be 100 over, but it's, Lowry. I know it's 100 over, but there's a more balanced-ish looking build centered around Xander, considering he is the second most popular player in the 10Ks. I don't know how popular true balanced lineups will be. Like if they go like Fitz or Tommy, let's try both actually. I don't know how popular a true balanced lineup will be. Because, again, this might be Griffin. Let's do Aaron Ryan. We haven't thrown him in the lineup yet as a popular play at 15%. We'll do Bobby Mack, Lucas Glover, and Shane Lowry. So, I don't know how popular this style of lineup will be. But if you encounter a balanced lineup, it's probably going to look something similar to this. Maybe instead of Tommy, maybe it's Russell Henley. Fitz could come down to Hovland. But you get the gist. So how are we going to maneuver around that? Well, I've basically been building 2 styles of lineups. It's either Scotty or Russell plus. If I do Russell Henley, those lineups, I've been more often than not trying to squeeze in Russell and Tommy. Trying to get both of them in there because I like both players this week. They're just at an awkward price point for me because I don't like the 6s much at all. I'll go down to the 6s for my Scotty lineups, but if I'm not playing Scotty, I want to avoid the 6s if at all possible. So for me, I would be, this would JG Poston. There's nothing wrong with Chris Kirk again. I know he's a little bit more popular than what we like seeing, but I like Chris Kirk. He says. This is the way I've been trying to get unique this week with my lineups. We can do something in the 8s, like a Chris Goddard, maybe. Get off the Ben Griffin chalk. Again, I'm not that big on Cameron Young. Maybe it's Harris English if you want to spend a little bit more. And then, mid and low 7, or maybe high and low 7. JJ Spawn. Nothing wrong with JJ Spawn in this lineup. And then 7,200. For me it'd be JT Poston. Maybe you're a big believer in Kitayama. If you're not scared about Lucas Glover, Lucas Glover could go in there. But these are the style of I'll say balanced builds that I've been going this week. Trying to do Russell and Tommy, or do like a Russell, Hovland and Burns, Russell Fitz and Burns, Russell Tommy Burns, kind of like that. Who's your kit from 2 weeks ago? I said it earlier. It is JT Poston. Looks like you're heading out, P. Thanks for jumping into chat. Good luck this week. Really appreciate you stopping by. Let me know how your week goes, and enjoy Live Chicago. Going to the Live event, going to watch it live. Enjoy your time. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you, P. Looks like you're heading out as well, John. Good luck to you this week. Very much appreciated that you stopped by. One last lineup very quickly. I'll show you how I've been doing my Scotty lineups. Much like you all, I'm doing Scotty and a bunch of 7s. However, if I'm willing to do like Scotty and a Sam Burns maybe, or a Scotty and a Hideki, I will come down to the 6s a couple times. Like one of these is Nick Taylor, more often than not. Maybe it's a Sam Stevens, Gerard. I'll also come down as far as Nico Echeverria. And then I've got a little bit of wiggle room down here in the lower 7s. Like I'm really high on JT Poston. How do I feel about Harmon? He's just not been good lately. So no. Just not a big fan. He also hasn't been great around Southwind very much. The irons are some of the worst in the field. He hasn't, for as short as he is, for as bad as his irons have been, he needs to be the number one fairway guy. And he's not. He hasn't been lately. So, no thanks on Harmon. I'm riding with you, Poston 100%. So if we die, we die. Yeah, I mean, especially in a small field like this, you have to find a unique player or two and plant your flag, and you got to hope that they do well. That's just the way it works, especially in these no-cut small field events. Just to round out this lineup, for me, I would go McCarthy more often than not. So that's the way I've been building some of my Scotty lineups. The other Scotty lineups, I'll go Scotty, and then sometimes I'll come all the way down to like Berger or Spawn, and then fill it out from there. You don't have to go into the 7 or the 6s for your Scotty lineups. More often than not, you have to do at least one, but it is possible to do it without. It depends on what players you like in here, but like 78, I'm just really high on Berger, so I'm trying to get to Berger. But maybe if you're not a big believer in McNeely, you can go like Spawn and Wyndham Clark, Spawn and I don't know, somebody else, but you can do it. It's just I'd much rather go to A6K and maybe try to squeeze in that Sam Burns. But my core this week, I understand this all won't fit, but let me Henley / Fleetwood. Sam Burns is as many lineups as I can squeeze him into, and then Berger. I'll do Spawn. He's going to be a little bit less. McCarthy and Poston. This is my core, and I'll highlight these two, meaning that they are like at the bottom end in terms of ownership for my core. Like I said, I'm basically all in on Scotty. I'm trying to squeeze in Sam Burns as many lineups as I can fit him. I really like Sam Burns this week. It's just really tough with Scotty, but I really like Berger in the upper 7s, McCarthy in the mid 7s, Poston in the low 7s. That is my core for the week. All right, let's go to the picks challenge. I did increase my lead on Gabe. I now hold a 6-point lead with 2 weeks to go, so I'm feeling pretty good, but I can't let up, as a winner would bring Gabe right back into it. And I'm going to go on a major limb here. I'm going to pick Scotty. I don't see any scenario where Scotty doesn't play well this week. He might not win, but I am all in on the belief of Scotty. He's the number one player in the world. He's been beating people. He's been beating brains in. He isn't winning by 1 and 2 strokes. He's been winning majors by like 7. We'll see you, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very much appreciated. Good luck this week. Very much appreciated. We're going to try and get you on the winning ways for PGA this week. But I'm going to go with Scotty. I firmly believe in Scotty. Gabe's going to go with the extreme recent form of Matt Fitzpatrick. Makes a lot of sense. He hasn't played well around TBC Southwind, but hard to ignore the recent form that Matt Fitzpatrick has. Favorite play, Sam Burns. I'm trying to squeeze him in as many lineups as I can. It's just really, really hard considering I'm trying to play all the Scotty too. Gabe's going to go back to the well with Colin Morikawa. It has not worked out well for him. I'm afraid it won't work out well again for him, but maybe this time it turns around. I'm going to fade Ben Griffin, even though I picked him to win last week and he played well. It's just too much ownership. I'm a little concerned that his performance last week was all based on the putter. He can get a little bit wayward even with non-driver off the tee. So I'm just off of Ben Griffin. Gabe's going to fade Daniel Berger, so we're at odds there because I really like Berger this week. Mad Scientist play, I would have loved to have given you a low 6, low owned play. I just hate the bottom of the price board. So I'm going to go with Nick Taylor, considering he was 4th or 5th in my rankings. He was quite a shock for me seeing him that high, even in terms of by the analytics. Gabe's going to go with Justin Rose. This is Mad Scientist play. FOMO, I'm going to play Matt McNeely. I can't put a finger on why. This is just a pure hunch or gut feeling, whatever analogy you want to use. I have a hunch that Matt McNeely is going to play well this week. And Gabe's going to go with Bobby Mack. And then our wild card category for the week, player who's in the bottom 20, most likely to reach Eastlake. I'm going to go with JT Poston. I think he plays well this week. And if he makes it out of this week, the BMW sets up very, very well for him because it's really easy. And he does his best work on easy courses. And then Gabe's going to take Aaron Rye as the player to go from bottom 20 this week to go all the way to Eastlake. So that's going to be it for the show this evening. I got very, very many people to thank. Oh, before I forget, answer the poll question. Looks like the majority of the audience, the headline or the story that's going to come from the St. Jude is Scotty's continued dominance. And I am right in agreement with you. Going from the picks challenge, I think Scotty continues his dominance. I don't think it's a matter if he wins. I think it's how much he wins by this week. But I got a lot of people to thank for jumping into chat here. Pay, Darnell, P, Mike, Rose, John. I think that covers everybody. Thank you all very much for jumping into chat. Very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting and subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. I've had 6 good weeks in a row. We're going to try to make it 7 for the start of the playoffs. I can tell I've been talking a lot. I'm starting to get scratchy throat. But thanks again for all the support. Very, very much appreciated. I hit 200 subscribers earlier in the week. I couldn't have done that without you all, the viewers. So really, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very, very much. For all the wagers that you've made this week for the St. Jude, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the St. Jude, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.